kind of different ideas. But learning how to jam is a completely different deal.
Yeah, totally.
You know, do you have like tips or tricks for someone like me that's trying to learn how to jam better?
Oh my God. Sure.
Like, what have you learned? Like, what have you learned from pitch meeting? Because that's like, you guys are the master of jam in my mind.
I think there's an overarching thing to think about here, and I'm not saying this necessarily applies to you, but I think because I do a lot of teaching, and one of the things that comes up a lot in the teaching is the concept of the bedroom player is such a like a prevalent thing in today's like musical society, and I think that because of this bedroom player situation, jamming is getting increasingly more difficult for people. And one of the things with jamming that it gets, I think, lost in translation is that the phrase like having a musical conversation is like, I think people hear that and they're like, yeah, like music, but like you really have to treat it like a conversation. You know what I mean? Like it's not a while you're jamming, like the eye contact piece is so important. You know what I mean? And like being able to read people and like understand like where you're going and like thinking big picture. Like I think people get stuck into thinking so much about what they're doing during a jam, but it's not about necessarily what you're doing. The same way that in a conversation, if you were thinking the entire time about what you're going to say, you wouldn't be knowing what they were saying to you.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't be able to form a reasonable response. And so I think kind of like the final statement to that is just like, when it comes to jamming, like the things that are so important are, one, doing it as much as humanly possible. Right. That's one important thing. And that's why you hear like these older bands and like that are so freaking good, because being a bedroom player then was so much more difficult. It's like, what do you got to play off of? Like finals. That's it.
Yeah.
But now it's backing tracks. You can make your own Logic stuff. There's an endless amount of things you can shed to at home, but you're not shedding the most important part, which is playing with other people. So the first thing is practicing playing with other people as much as possible. And then the second thing is listening more to what other people are doing and less to what you're doing. And that's a big pitch meeting thing, because at pitch, we have no idea what's going on ever.
Sure.
And so,
for sure.
Yeah. And so like, it wouldn't work if I was focused solely on me, because like nothing's rehearsed. So Liam might change something. I have to react to Liam for it to work. And when I react to Liam, Eric reacts to me, or Eric reacts and I react to Eric, and vice versa. So that's so important, like big picture in that sense. And then also big picture in the sense of like, where are we going? When are we going to end? You know, and everybody's thinking about that. And every person in a musical situation has the opportunity to change the dynamics. Yeah. And you should always be thinking about that. You know, the intro, it's like a book or a movie. It's like, and this is kind of the way I teach it to my students. I call it the 3-chorus solo exercise, or the 3-section, but it also relates to songwriting and everything else. It's like, how we look at like TV shows and movies and books and how they're written. And it's like everything has an intro, and that's like the same motif repeated over and over again. Like Harry Potter's like scar on his forehead, and it's like just drills that point in your head until you understand, okay, this is the motif, right? The same way there's like in a jam, it's like, what's the main motif of the jam? Like, what's the main idea? And everybody repeats that for a while in the beginning. Once that's understood, you can deviate from it and grow and grow and grow. And then you have to hit a climax at some point. What is that? Who's going to decide that's the climax, and who's going to help grow, right? If one person's sort of leading, let's say it's you, and you're like building the energy more and more and more, and then you decide this is the climax during someone's solo, maybe you push them there, then you get there, then there has to be like a falling action. Maybe you go back to the riff, and then someone has to end it. So if that's always the rough outline of a jam, and everybody's aware of that, then you'll always have a successful jam. I just think a lot of the time that's forgotten. Yeah. And it goes on and on. But the reason why it's forgotten is because of backing tracks, because backing tracks are like the same thing for ages. And I have students that submit these awesome ideas, but they'll send me like a 6-minute solo, and they start up here on the neck, and then they go down, and they go back up again, they go down again, they go to the middle of the neck, they go down again, then the track ends, and they're just like halfway through an idea.
Yeah.
And they're like, "What do you think of my solo?" And I'm like, "Well, it wasn't a solo, it was just like blurting ideas out."
Yes.
Yeah. So
right.
That's what happens in jams, I think, a lot of the time. I mean, Berkeley, there was loads of that kind of stuff. Just like, then go down and up and down and up. And you're like, where are we going?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, there's also, I think, a powerful songwriting opportunity in jamming with people. Because,
Totally.
You know, I think that there's, like, with the bedroom guitarist thing, there's also the bedroom producer phenomenon.
Totally.
And it's really easy to sit down and, like, get like a backing track, you know, smart, whatever the real drummer or whatever that, you know, you can get that will sound like a realistic drummer. And
they're getting better and better.
Yeah,
too.
it's getting better and better. And then you can just lay down stuff on top of that and chop it up. It's like, what about getting, and I'm even asking myself this question sometimes, is like, what about just getting in the room with the band and fleshing out a song idea and doing that process, but with real humans, and jam on this one, you know, the A section of the song for 5 minutes straight to get out as many ideas as you possibly can, and then switch to the B section and then figure out how you're going to put both of those together and work on the transition as a group.
Totally.
There's a lot of cool stuff that can happen there. Things that you would have never thought about if you were just sitting there on your computer by yourself.
Yeah. I mean, some of the coolest...
Because that conversation is happening.
They say in cooking...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dude, but music and cooking are so similar.
Yes.
Let them cook, dude.
Yeah. Let them cook. But they say every recipe is a mistake.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So like in music, like I bet back in the day, well, no, probably still now, like every verse is a mistake.
100%.
Like it just came out of just like jamming off of the same idea. And now all of a sudden, like, oh, like that kind of sounds cool if we go to this chord at the end, or like if we say this here, like it makes sense. But you're only going to figure that out if you're just messing around on the same idea.
Yeah.
Which a lot of bedroom producers, one, they don't have the input of those other people.
No.
To bring up those other ideas. I'm really into like EDM music. I produce my own near EDM.
That's awesome.
Music, whatever you call it. There's a really big guy, Elenium. He's a big EDM guy.
Yep.
And it was just so interesting. Like he's producing his own music. He makes 90% of it. He's like, I like to use samples, like vocal chops.
Right.
Because it's going to come up with an idea that I've never thought about before. It's just like, sure.
Yeah.
Right. Like you're starving for something different. So you need to go to a vocal chop because you don't work with other people.
Right. Yeah.
Producers now don't work with other people. It's just such a weird way people are making music in the bedroom producer world. It's so different. Yeah. And Nashville's a huge hub for making music the old school way.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the last surviving places of bands.
I think it's coming back.
Yeah.
Do you think so?
Yeah. 100%.
I think so.
It's so it's been, what is it, like wash, rinse, repeat or whatever that saying is? I think I said it backwards, but whatever.
Rinse, repeat.
Rinse, repeat.
Wash.
That was a joke.
Dry.
I don't know.
Dry.
We got it.
Something like that.
It was somewhere in
but
there.
It's so like, I don't know, dude. I just feel like there is slowly a shift happening. Like,
yeah, I agree. With like when you got Beyonce coming into the country scene and you got Post Malone coming into the scene.
This is crazy. And like, I think people in the audience can feel the difference because there's no tracks. And there's no click. It's like, this is a band. This is an actual band making actual music. And it's like, wow, this is so much different than going to see somebody else. So we can name hundreds of artists that are like, all right, drummer, press play now. Chorus, 2, 3, 4.
You're
like, oh. Yeah.
We're all running Ableton. Light shows synced up with it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can't miss a note or else you'll be off of the click.
It's so funny. That's my whole world right now with the GrooveMPL stuff.
Yeah.
It's like I have this online site where we like mainly focus on playback and how to make playback in the independent studios.
You know, there's so much money to be made there. Sure. You know what I mean? And there's no reason why you shouldn't go into that world to make some money. But it's all like you're in a good spot because it's also, as long as you understand the importance of musicianship inside of that space, then that's where the music's at the moment, and hopefully the money will appear there.
But yeah, and I think there's people that like they are starving for this like feeling that you can only get with live musicianship.
Yep.
Because it's mesmerizing.
Yeah.
When you see someone like you that's really good at what they do, and it's just like, how does he do that? Really? Like, why doesn't he have to look at the fretboard? Like, how does he know that note is up there?
Yeah.
Or like I saw a video with like Travis Barker, like he has like a thing over his face, like, how does he play if he can't see the drums? Like, it's mesmerizing to people, but like we do this all the time.
It's also it's sort of encouraging because I think that in anything, especially in music though, and as musicians, we're always like afraid that the thing we like is going to go away once and for all, and people are going to stop caring about it, whether that be playing in a band or like a certain subgenre of rock that you're into or whatever. And it always finds a way to sort of come back around. Like there's, no matter how much technology changes the landscape or how much, it changes the way that people are making music, there's always going to be people that are searching for, the old school thing or whatever, just because you can't beat that humanness of it. I think there was a quote by, have you ever seen It Might Get Loud?
I don't think so. What is
it's
that?
So good.
You should see it.
You should
that's
watch
up your alley. Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously.
It's like a little documentary. They have Jimmy Page, Jack White, and The Edge.
Holy moly.
All three of them sit down to talk about guitar. They just talk about their influences, what their first guitar was. They play records for each other. It's really, really great. And it's like three different eras of guitar player. And The Edge actually said something about that throughout his career, in the 80s, you had like the Linn drum and you had like all these new synths being made and stuff. And there's so many times when it felt like the guitar was just going to kind of disappear as something that people cared about or wanted to see in popular music. But then he's like, every time I thought it was going to be done for good, it would come back in a new way that I didn't see before. And I feel like we're still seeing that today with,
it's sick.
Yeah, because it's so fucking cool, man.
You know what I mean? It's just, but it's like, I hope this is true, but the way that I'm justifying it in my mind is like, the more the AI comes along, because that's a valid contribution to this conversation is, so like, what about AI? Because the more that people, or more AI gets developed, supposedly the closer it gets to feeling like human beings, whatever.
Yeah.
But then, then the next thing happens, which is like, okay, so AI comes along and you can mass produce music, fine. But then now music made by people becomes even more special. Like you just made it more special. Now it's premium. Now it's like, cool. So there's this thing that happens, but like, if you want to get like real musicians, you're gonna have to pay. And like, it's also for the listener. It's like, okay, so it's like you are what you eat. It's like the whole like you're eating processed music with your brain versus eating organic music with your brain.
Sure.
Way healthier.
Yeah.
You eat the organic music because you're hearing human stuff, which is I'm sure there's a study somewhere that's like ultra quantized music harms the brain because it stops new synapses just being formed or something.
Yeah, sure. Someone has said that sentence before.
The fact that it's exactly the same every single time, which is like what a method of torture too, right? Like
like the water torture. Like,
sure. Yeah. It's like repetition nonstop can drive you insane, and if it's like properly everything's completely quantized, it's just like non-stop in your brain, and then they change the BPM again. That's it. Sorry, my phone's going crazy.
Oh, that's fine. You're good. Well, that's kind of why I was thinking of the EDM thing, because like I think it's leaning so far towards 100% electronic that people are going to get to the edge of that and be like, like I need something. Like I need a little bit of a human element. It's like, when I produce my stuff, I want it to be like 50, 70% electronic, and then I won't quantize my drums.
Yeah.
Because sometimes...
That's cool, though, because it's like, or if you don't, you're semi-quantized, I'm sure.
Right.
But there's still human in there.
I want to maintain that human push and pull of my shitty timing.
Well, that's the thing though. It's like, I'm like, I'll have lessons with some students and they'll be like, oh, like Hendrix sucks compared to, some of these newer players. And then they'll bring
Tim
up
Henson or whatever.
Sure. They'll bring up modern players that play like really, really, to the metronome, perfect, like fast alternate pick lines, for example. And it's like perfect. And they're like, that's way better. And I'm like, and then it brings us back to this conversation we had before about certain music schools and how music school, like, and I went to music school for 4 years, and it's very, it's like quantitative music is what I call it. But it's like, they're like, well, we're going to grade you based on the amount of notes you've played in this, or the way you approached this, how many times you did it, and how many scales you played over this thing, and how many different voicings you know. And it's like, but it's not really about that. It's like, how does the music feel and sound?
Right.
You know what I mean? And so it's like, you look at some of these modern players, and if you were to paint like a picture, it'd be like dead straight lines and exact color and exact areas.
Yeah, sure.
And if you take Hendrix and you paint Hendrix's picture, it's like this beautiful, like Van Gogh picture of melting colors and curvy lines, and nothing's perfect, and that's what draws you in, because it's like every single detail is different and interesting and amazing, and it's not perfect, and it's not to the lines, and it's not snapped to grid, and the bends aren't all perfectly in tune, and that's the intention behind it, and it makes it like you put those two pictures next to each other, and it's like, whoa, you know what I mean? Like,
I love that
personality here. This is a computer. And it's like, I bet if you did a study and you looked at when computerization really started impacting people's lives, you watch how music is affected by that, and you watch music go from personality based to rigid.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, well, this computer's perfect. So everything in your life is like now straight lines and 0 1 0 0 1 1 0 0 0 1 0 0. So your music should be that way.
You're in a prison of your own design.
Yes. And just so we're clear, 0 1 0 0, I'm not talking about like tab for thrashing music. That stuff is awesome. That's not the same. I'm just talking about coding for computers.
Right.
Yeah, to illustrate that point, when I was in audio engineering school, they were getting that kind of point across about feel and like what the metronome did to music, and they played Gimme Shelter by the Rolling Stones, and it starts out at like 106 BPM and the song ends at 118 BPM.
Amazing.
God forbid.
It's
horrible.
So good.
And it wasn't recorded to a click, obviously, so there was no planned, tempo changes. It just naturally sped up 12 BPM over the course of the song because there was real energy there, and they were like genuinely excited about what they were playing and feeling the song, and then that was reflected in the pace, because we're human beings and we speed up when we get excited.
Right.
Yes. It's another form of building energy.
Yeah. Exactly.
But we're like, it's not allowed to
building
explore
energy.
that anymore.
Yeah, right.
Crazy. That's another human element taken from music. What are some other human elements you guys think have been pulled from music?
Oh, pitch correction.
Pitch correction, sure.
Oh.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard a pitch corrected Robert Plant?
Oh, I bet
there's a YouTube video. Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it's sterile. It's totally sterile. They pitch correct Robert Plant on, I think they did dun 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 dun. What song is that? Fool in the Rain.
Yeah.
So one of the later songs. They pitch corrected that song, and it just killed all the vibe and voice, the intricacies of his voice. And he's such a great singer, that when you lock him onto a grid of notes, all of a sudden it just becomes this.
He's not Robert Plant anymore.
Yeah, he's not.
Right.
Because you lost the personality, which is the sense that he's off, but he's not off. He's on. You know what I mean?
He's just off in between where he lands sometimes. Maybe.
Yeah, but that's also why like blues is wrong, because it's all microtonal.
There's so much bending going on.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So much bending. But that's why it's good, because it's the whole like over the one dominant chord, and we're playing minor pentatonic, but we're not. That
right.
It's not there. That's why it's bluesy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's wrong.
Yeah.
Apparently.
by somebody's definition, or
nope.
By a very academic and like sort of rigid standard. I mean, to use another Led Zeppelin example, Jimmy Page, he bent out of tune like crazy.
Yeah.
He would overbend like by a full, quarter note or something, on a lot of those bends. But it sounded amazing because it's more so about what you're trying to tell the listener with that bend than it is about the note that the bend actually hits.
Yeah.
It's like, no, pay attention to me, because I'm bending this note so extreme, in such an extreme way. You're supposed to feel something from it.
It's offensive.
Yeah.
But pain is offensive too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's outside the lines.
So how are you supposed to illustrate pain if it's quantized and in tune?
Right.
You can't.
Right.
Necessarily. Somebody will argue that you can. But there's a human element that will always be missing from that.
Yeah.
And that's the point you bring there.
But there's like I liked what you said earlier about, I forget what you said, but like it made me think of like Bob Marley's music was Bob Marley's music.
Yeah.
Like, it was what he wanted to say. It was just like a true extension of him. And now when you have people like Taylor Swift, which she's great, she's so good. But like,
you gotta say it.
Great. She's a great business person.
She's a great business person. Her dad is also a great business person.
Yes.
She is too, obviously.
Yep.
But it's a different deal with her because she has an idea, maybe, or maybe another writer of hers has an idea.
Was a team like 20-something, 30-something people?
Lord
I can't
only
remember.
knows. I think I saw a thing on TikTok where it was they were like 70% of the songs written out there are not written by the artist.
Yeah, I can believe that, unfortunately.
I totally believe it. And like maybe it's not unfortunate. Like maybe we are getting more songs that are written for us because they're songs that are made. I mean, these songs are being made for us, for the masses. Songs that are going to be received by the masses. Like that's why we're making songs now. We're not making songs from the standpoint of like how Bob Marley would do it, where he had a message, he wanted to say something, and he wanted to amplify it through music. It's a different thing. So maybe it's not necessarily worse, but it's totally different.
Well, it's no different than like we're a giant corporation and we are going to make the next mid-sized SUV, and we need as many people to buy this mid-sized SUV as humanly possible. So we're going to assemble all the top people that we can because
our
we can
version
afford
of
to.
the CRV.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. They're making a Honda CRV, but it's songs and albums. But the process is the exact same. I mean,
it's the exact same.
I did a project in college actually about this. And my example that I cited was Beyonce because there was like a bunch of information on the internet about it. But Beyonce, and she's not the only one. There's plenty of people that
there's only one Beyonce. How
Beyonce
dare
people,
you?
Taylor Swift
Beyonce's
people,
awesome.
We love Beyonce. All hail Beyonce. But she would
She's
like
fantastic.
Let's say she's making a new record. They're gonna book out 15 studios around the country in every hotspot city. They're gonna fill the studios with teams of writers, and they're gonna have a writers camp. The writers camps will then churn out about 200 plus songs. They will then, cut demos of those songs while they're there writing them, send them to Beyonce's team. Those will get filtered down by record label executives to the ones that they think are the most marketable. So then Beyonce's given like 100 songs, and then she goes and listens through them and picks the ones that she likes. And then there's another round of execs that are saying, okay, you like this, but we don't think this one's going to sell as well, so we're going to scratch that. Sorry, you can't do it. And then they get down to 18 or 20 songs or whatever, and then they make extra, probably 30 or 40, and then they record all of those, and then they narrow that down to 20, and then they put out a record.
It's the fault of the record label at the end of the day.
Yeah,
that's probably true.
AKA the musical bank.
Yeah, they're all just banks, really.
Yeah, I mean, they give you you get signed, and then you get an advance, and then you have to pay that advance back. It's just a musical bank loan with the interest is albums.
Yeah,
that's it. Like,
did you since you did music business, have you touched the music business world since you've been in Nash?
Loads.
Yeah.
Sorry, I cut you off before you said something else.
How long have you been here?
I'm coming up on 2 years this August.
That's right.
So I would say for anybody that is looking to go to music school, you should do music business. Where music business impacted my life. So like when I was in college, I considered for a little while doing actually going in and working as an industry worker on the business side. And then I love playing too much. However, what the advantage of taking music business is like it makes you think about the fiscal side of music, which is a hard area, like having a business mindset towards stuff. How am I going to make money off of this? What's an important thing? Oh, our band's going to go on tour. What are our expenses? What's our overhead? Let's sell merch. What are the profit margins of this? Okay, so we're going to sell merch like our band Moga, my band, the Moga Family Band. It's like, okay, we're going to sell merch. Cool. So the merch costs this much money for us to produce it. Then we're going to charge this much money to make money. But it's not just that easy because then it's also a consideration of, okay, cool. But then we also have to pay for Square to sell the merch. So how much does that cost on average per show? Because we pay monthly for that. And we have to pay somebody to sell the merch. So how much do they cost? Now what's our profit? Oh, nothing. Or maybe it's a couple dollars. So maybe we have to charge more for the merch. That's something else. It's like thought processes like that are so important to have as a musician. That's one area that the music business thing is touched. On the other side, before I started my own group, playing with artists, one of the most a piece of advice I was given is make yourself irreplaceable in a band. And it's true, like a lot of people, and it's totally valid to do this because, as a side person, you get paid a set rate. I mean, you could pay a gig, the artist could walk away with $100,000. You might still get paid $200. So it depends on what you're doing. But if you want to keep a gig, how do you become irreplaceable? And one of the great things about having done music business is it's like, okay, cool. Not only am I your guitar player, but also I can run your entire band for you.
Yep.
I'll coordinate everything. I can even do your books.
Yeah, you got more cards in your deck.
Yeah, I'm not just your guitar player. I'm wearing a couple of hats here. And for an artist, that's so useful because they're focusing on writing the music and you just have to play your guitar parts, which you've been given. But now you can also wager, well, I'll do all of these other things and help you out. And then they might pay you more money for that too.
Sure.
If you're keeping their books, doing their accounting and their tour managing and running their band, scheduling all the rehearsals, which is it's a smaller piece to the whole grand scheme of things when it comes to business, but that's a great thing. Understanding how equity works, that's something else.
Yeah.
So you're in a band and you navigate your band looking at equity instead of getting paid. That's a way more financially solid idea if you have traction as a band, because equity may not be a lot of money in the beginning, but 20 years from now, if the band has exploded and you took smaller money but got paid equity, you own that business.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Owning things. You said that before we started the cameras. Like, it's really hard to make money as a musician.
Yes.
It's really freaking hard. And there's a lot of people that need to have jobs on the side to be able to eat food on a regular basis and drink water.
Totally.
Well, water's free. But yeah, owning things is huge. There's big upside owning things. You take the headphones off?
Yeah, I was like,
I can't do the headphones.
The world. Owning things is sorry. Finish your point there. I apologize.
That was my whole point.
Yeah.
What's going on, everybody? I'm interrupting the podcast because I've finally launched what I've been talking about on this podcast for a very long time, GrooveMPL, Groove Music Production Lessons. This website is focused on two main things: how you can use Ableton on stage as playback, and independent music producers in Nashville. How do they do it? How do they get clients? How do they work out the contracts? So every month there's a new course available on the site, and we got courses like Adam Leeds diving into how he has been able to produce for just monster artists here like Starlito, Young Buck, and a bunch of different artists. We got the drummer from Maggie Rose, Timothy Burkhead, showing how he uses Ableton and his SPD pad to control the live show and have it run seamlessly. Austin Cannon, who's breaking down how do the contracts work between you and the artist. These courses really are here because they cover topics that are hard to find, and they're important topics that are necessary to get you from point A to point B. That information in between shouldn't be hard to find, and having it in one central location I think is super important, so I'm very excited to share it with you all. Again, you can sign up at GrooveMPL.com with the discount code GGP for Garden Groove Podcast, and you'll get 50% off your first month. I'm looking forward to meeting you all.
Every band should be registered.
Yep.
Here's why. Okay, if you don't know this. If you are a band, now this is the risk of this is small and unlikely, but this is a reason why you should be an LLC. Let's say you're a band and the band goes and plays a show, and the show has whatever happen, and then your guitar player on accident knocks over one of the speakers and it hits somebody in the audience. Here's what happens if you're not an LLC. You're all sued. Personally sued.
Yeah.
Now, you're a musician, so you don't have a lot. They sue you. They somehow win a lawsuit against you, $40,000 a person, whatever gets sued. And you're the guitar player. What do? You know, that's out of your pocket. But if it's a band, LLC, the LLC takes the gig, the LLC sued. You're not sued. You're fine.
Yep.
So it's fine. It's way better. Also, when it comes to taxes, the LLC pays you. You know, it's not, you're not dealing with who's going to pay the tax burden on this money double twice or something.
Yeah.
Also, who's going to own the masters? The LLC owns the masters. That's who owns the masters.
Yeah.
That keeps things equal. Not one person owning the masters in the band, and then everybody else has equity in those masters, but then what? Somebody owns the masters. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but everybody equally owns the LLC, which means you all equally own the masters. And then inside of the LLC, you can contract out what percentage you get of this master. Let's say, you know, there's going to be something like that, or however else you want to deal with it. But yeah, man, I mean, when it comes to like equity, you know, equity is super important because a band is a business. And if you're investing your time into it, you deserve to own a piece of it. If you're investing your money into it, you deserve to own a piece of that. And, you know, equity is important. All equity really is just the statement that you own this percentage of this thing. And if it dissolves, you get that back of whatever's left.
Right.
Or else, if it dissolves and you don't have that equity laid out, it's one of those age-old issues and arguments of, well, I think I deserve this. And no, you don't. I did that.
Yeah.
Frick you. And then, and it's a nightmare. And then you might walk away losing so much, you know? So it's important.
Well, speaking of businesses, when I first met you, we were talking about you were trying to start an online lesson.
Yes, I have that now. Yeah.
Which, you got the website up.
Yep.
It's I checked it out before. You got courses up on there.
Yep.
And you got you had a really good podcast with Marty Schwartz.
Yes, thank you.
Where you guys talked about
that.
It was a
blast.
That's cool.
Freaking legendary.
Yeah. I was very grateful for that.
Yeah,
Marty
that's
is
a
the
piece
best.
of my childhood.
Mine as well. You know? I was very lucky to have gotten on there.
Mine too. I'm not even a guitar player. I took some lessons from him too.
Yeah. I think everyone has at some point.
Everybody's first guitar teacher.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you've been able to play with him a few times too.
Yep.
Really cool. Really cool.
Very grateful for that. Yeah.
Yeah. And even his thumbnail on the video for the podcast is like, is this my predecessor? Is this the guy who's going to take over? Successor? Yeah. So cool. So
Thank
cool.
you very much, man.
To see what you've been able to do. What's kind of the direction you see your online stuff going?
Well, so I currently have, I love teaching, and teaching also has been a integral part of how I've been able to do exactly what I want to do.
Nice.
So there's two sides to that coin. I mean, I don't just teach to make money. I teach because I love it, and I love seeing my students succeed. Yeah. And they're amazing people, all of them. And I've got about 60 of them at the moment that I see.
Nice. Holy jeez.
There's a few of them. And, you know, I mean, I've grown it so much to the point, I mean, I've got hundreds of pages of resources that I've typed out and made videos for each of them. And it's always been about, you know, solving, like I love solving problems, and I love teaching because people come in and they're like, how do I do this? And I'm like, how can I make this so efficient that you get it so fast? And I'm like, I'm going to make a resource for this. And so I've got all this stuff, but it's getting to a point now where it's like, I want to help even more people. So I actually met Marty and through pitch meeting, and then we started chatting outside of that and hang out. And you know, I was telling Marty about my love for teaching and everything else, and how teaching has been so beneficial, so that I can do the gigs that I want to do. Yeah. Like having this band, you know, in the beginning, having a band in the beginning, as if any of you have bands may know, you don't make money in the beginning necessarily, especially if you're really trying to stick to the philosophy, which is getting you in spaces and showing people what you've got, right? It doesn't necessarily always mean you're going to make money doing that. So teaching has been a great way that I can pay my bills and do the gigs that I want to do. So Marty suggested that, and something I wanted to do for a while, but didn't know how to do it effectively, is online courses. And so Marty has very graciously given me some insight into how to do that. And so I've
guy to get that from.
I know. He's the man for that. And so I you know, I've set up, I've got a free course out at the moment, actually, which the link to that, maybe we could throw in the description or something.
Yeah. Sure. Let me write a note.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, I've got this free lick lesson course out, just as a trial, but man, like I just want to put out a bunch of courses on what I think people should know musically. And the thing is like I'm not anti-institution when it comes to music, teaching music.
Yeah.
But I am, the way that I go about teaching it is very much so from the side of inspiring people to create, rather than this is what you should be playing. So I come at it from a very unique perspective of like, here's some sounds and things. How does this relate to you? And what does this make you feel like? And I come at it from, like, we talked about cooking before. I kind of have this like cooking philosophy on teaching music where it's like, you know, a great cook. Like, let's say like Gordon Ramsay. I love watching the Gordon Ramsay videos.
Yeah.
I love to cook.
It's a whole separate conversation.
I'm like big into cooking too. Like,
let's put a pin in that and come back to it, because I want to talk about cooking.
But a great cook like tastes it and adds what they feel like is going to suit them best. But somebody who goes to music school may be like, well, the recipe says I should add this, so I'm going to add that. So I come at it from a standpoint of like, well, how does somebody like Gordon Ramsay come to the point that they know exactly what every flavor tastes like? How do you as a musician come to a point where you know what every interval tastes like, and how you would look at your dish so far, your solo or the chords of your song or whatever's going on, and decide, let me think. I think I need this. You know what I mean? And so there's a lot of that kind of stuff. So I'm translating all of that to these like video courses. And man, I just want to see it. I would love to see it grow, and I just want to help more people, you know, because there's a lot of people who want to take lessons but just don't have the financial capacity to afford private lessons, but I want them to still be able to get something from me. Now, obviously video lessons aren't the same as private lessons. You get way more out of a private lesson, but you still get a lot out of a video course. So,
I mean, Marty wouldn't be where he is today if it wasn't for that.
He's a man, and he's helped everybody. I mean, I would not be, well, I think a large part of my love for playing music was like in the beginning, just like learning these like songs from Marty. And then I was like, this is so cool. Like I'm all about this. And then fell in love with music. It was like all the AC/DC courses.
Yeah.
Oh, but okay. Can I ask, did you like fall in love with like how Marty would teach and the stuff he would teach, or did you want to be like Marty?
Oh,
well, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a good question. Like when it comes to teaching, I actually found my love for teaching through my dad.
Yeah.
That's because my dad's an incredible, like, it's not what my dad does for a living, but my dad's an incredible teacher. And he'd like, the way that he would explain and teach me things was so thorough, but so well-spoken and so easy to understand. I mean, my dad is like an engineer, but he's like done like everything.
It's the engineers, dude.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Everybody loves engineers.
And that's where I fell in love with teaching. I just fell in love with like playing guitar, just learning these like easy songs, and like the best place to learn them would be Marty. You know what I mean? Like that's where I got that, like just the learning songs piece. And then I was like obsessed with the guitar when I was like starting out from seeing those Marty videos. That's where that came in, you know?
Yeah.
But the love for teaching came from my dad.
That's cool.
And he was the one when I was in middle school that was like, you should teach guitar. And I was like, I should not. I am a middle schooler. And he's like, you can always find somebody that you should learn. And then he gave me the piece of life advice, which was, you should always have a mentor and a mentee.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
You should never just have a mentor.
Yeah.
Because the fastest way to learn and understand a piece of philosophy is by teaching it.
Yep.
And as you go about continuing to learn stuff, it's tube maps.
The tubes are talking.
Yeah, as you go about learning stuff, as you teach the same stuff, you start to realize there's so much more to that thing than you could have thought about. Because the person, you're getting feedback on your own thoughts. And you're realizing things. That's also what I love about teaching. It's like the biggest musical shed ever.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, I've taught since middle school too.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just like seeing like, think about it this way. And they're like, I don't get it. And they're like, okay, that's fine. Think about it this way. Like, it still doesn't make sense. And then you're like, think about it this way. And they're like, oh my gosh.
Like, you're like, I need to think about it this way.
Right.
How have I not thought about it this way?
And I've said it a million times, but it's like being able to do one thing 50 different ways is so valuable.
Very important. Yeah. 100%. You ever taught any lessons?
I've taught some guitar lessons, very like beginner stuff. I've only had 2 students ever. I did it for a little while. So there's this girl in my neighborhood that I taught, and she was great because she had really good music taste. And so she would always just bring me the next song that she wanted to learn, and it would always be something really good. And so that was really fun. We always had a good time. And then I taught this other kid that was like probably 7, and he was not into it at all. And
sounds right.
That was tough. And he was like, can we learn an Imagine Dragons song? And I'm like, I don't even know how to teach Imagine Dragons on acoustic guitar, because most of Imagine Dragons songs are just like toms. And just like 100%. Like toms and snare and like one little guitar line that's like way off to the side and lower than everything else.
Yep.
And I was like, I mean, we can try to learn some Imagine Dragons.
That's all I would teach. That's all I taught in like high school.
Yeah, just like that. So it just didn't like grow, and I didn't really know how to grow it. So it wasn't something that I stuck with. But funny enough, I really, really enjoyed teaching people about audio engineering.
That's great.
And I was just thinking about it, like you were talking about this when we first got here, before we even started recording, about like doing online lessons and how that's been like a great source of income for you and stuff like that. And I was just thinking about it. I could totally monetize teaching recording to people, especially because so many people, I of course have people come to me to mix and master and record them, but I have even more people coming to me to ask questions about things, to be like, hey, can you explain how to do this? And, you know, I'm happy to I love just dumping knowledge on people because I'm so passionate about it.
Yeah.
But as you were talking about that, I was like, man, I could hop on Zooms with people and walk them through stuff. So maybe that's a conversation we should have after the pod.
There's an important piece that I'll say on this podcast that's I think is very important when it comes to considering teaching, and that is there's an economic side to it. Yeah. There's two things that I also teach people how to teach lessons.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another area that I've
lessons
literally lessons because I get a lot of people that are like, well, how do you get students, like how are you working this? And there's two things that I always lead with, and they are very, very, very important, and they're economics based things. One, you need to make sure you charge enough money. There's a lot of people that are, if you're not a good teacher, then, people will figure that out. And even if you charge enough money, they won't go to you. So for those of you who might watch this and go, well, if you're charging $100 an hour and the teacher's terrible, that's extortion. Yes, I agree. It's not good. But if you make sure and care about your students and you make sure that they get quality every lesson, and you sometimes stay late with your students to make sure they understand it, and you work on creating resources for them, and you care, and you really want to see them succeed, then those are usually the people that come to me and are asking questions. Then my advice goes as follows, and it's always, you have to make sure you charge enough money. Because the people that charge $20 an hour for lessons harm musicians.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. The people that accept like $20 for a gig, like always.
Nice.
You know what I mean? When the artist could pay more money. That's the key part. When the artist could pay more money and they're only offering like $20 for a gig, the people that accept that gig are actually harming everybody, because that is hurting the economy in the sense of now it's okay to pay that people that much money, because now it's lowering the average pay for gigs. So,
and it lowers how much you care about that gig when you're taking it.
And there's that too. Yeah.
Right? Like if you're getting paid $100 for that gig, you're gonna care a little bit more.
You're gonna care more for sure. But also in the mind of the artist, it's not their fault. It's like the economics. They're like, oh well, I've always paid people $20, so why should I pay you more money? Goodbye. And then great musicians get turned away from all these gigs. Same way in the teaching world, it's important, and I tell everybody, you should make sure you're charging enough money. Yeah. If you charge enough money, and because also it's not just that, it's like you just spent your entire life learning this, and you're about to share what you spent your entire life's work on. You're
for
about
free.
To share that to somebody. If you're going to charge them $20, that's hard. Now, mates rates are obviously a thing. Sure, that's great. And also, like I said before, if you do not care about your student and you do not care about the quality of their lesson, you're just trying to make money, do not teach. But if you care and you're willing to put in the effort, you should make sure you charge enough money. That's huge.
I like that.
Yeah, very important. And because I have people that are so great and care so much, and then they're like, I think I'll charge this because I'm starting out. No.
Yeah.
No, charge the same amount as people that have been teaching for a while. There's obviously a premium rate that you can charge. That's different. That's like a premium. You know what I mean? But it's like the average price of a guitar or the average price of a car. And then there's a premium price for a car,
Yeah, I think a lot of people understand that there's a ceiling to what they can charge. Like there's audio engineers that like will max out at like $3,000 a song or something.
Yeah.
Producers. But then there's also, maybe people need to understand that there's also a minimum of what you can charge. Like maybe like on the GrooveMPL thing that I do, I had a guy break down like, how do you charge for drum tracks? And he's like, I started out at 75. That was his base. And he's like, sometimes like I would negotiate that if they had no other option, but I would start at 75, and then every year I would give myself a rate. So he's 100%. Built himself up to like 150 or something.
Yeah. And then you got to do that. So if you're going to charge, it seems like you care, but it's a deep question you have to ask yourself. Sure. You know what I mean? Making sure you're like, because once you start teaching somebody, you have to be committed to seeing them succeed. And if you are, then the money comes with that too. They're paying you for a valuable product, and that is you are massively helping them. You know what I mean? Like, I make sure that my students, like, I will give them free lessons between lessons the second they can't understand something, because it's not about the money, it's about their success. But I'm also making sure that I am compensated for my time. But you see where I'm caring.
Sure, yeah.
And that's the important piece. Not saying you wouldn't, but I'm just, as a thing I always preach to people whenever the teaching thing comes
philosophy,
up. 100%. Because it's always so overlooked, the economic side of it. And the same with gigging thing, it drives me bananas.
Sure, dude.
Because everybody could be better off if we all charged more and everybody charged more of a similar ball field, and we discussed minimums as a music like industry. There we'd be better off, because then people wouldn't be starving. You know what I mean?
It's interesting to look at it that way. Like, your price determines every other person's price to a degree. Like,
I had somebody put it to me an interesting way when I was trying to, early on, right after I got out of audio engineering school, I was trying to figure out how to price myself as an engineer, and I was just thinking about, what do I need to survive? What do I need to make hourly to survive? And this girl is an accountant, and a friend of mine, she was like, but you're doing a specialized service for somebody. She's coming at it as an accountant, and like what an accountant is paid for and the way that they consider the payment for an accountant. And she's like, you're doing a specialized service. You should be charging, I can't remember what she said, but it was like, you should be charging 30 to 35 an hour minimum, because you're offering a specialized service to somebody. And I'm sitting here thinking, how little do I need to charge so that I can survive and just like make ends meet? And she's like, don't think about it that way. You need to think about it as what it is, which is a specialized set of skills that you're using as a service. And it really changed the way I was thinking about what I was doing.
So important.
And it's so like the imposter syndrome thing, like you can get in your head about like, oh, there's people, they're so much better than me. Like, how can I, but I think like, you just have to push through that and just charge the money.
You do. Yeah. Because you also you have to ask yourself too, like, again, like, how much do I care about the people I'm like, you can charge, I think you should be able to charge a nice amount of money, but only if you care about what you're doing. Yeah.
And you're able to kind of like upsell some of that stuff too. Like some of my teachers back home, which is smart what you're doing by doing it on Zoom.
Yeah.
Like they get a video to go along with what they're getting. Like they're getting extra things that they can always go back to.
Which is why I make the resources too, because you're not just paying for the hour, you're also paying for years of resources.
Yeah.
Videos. Yeah. For the most part, I offer massive discounts in any video courses I do to my students as well.
Nice.
I have a 12-week written course that I have some people do, but if you do private lessons with me, I'll take you through that course pretty much anyways. You know what I mean? Like, I've spent the last year really trying to be like, what can I create that adds even more, value per dollar? And this, again, goes back to the music business thing. This is like all music, like business mentality towards stuff. And it's like, this is why, and this is where it's like, have I used that? Yes. Constantly. And it's in these areas. And it's like, without that, it can be so hard as a musician to make money. But once you like look at it all from a song as a product, lesson as a product, how do I market the product? Who's my target market? How do I price this? Like pricing is so important. Because also here's the other thing, the other side of it too. Pricing tells people what the value is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two guitar. I love the.
We've talked about that a lot.
Yeah, the Mercedes.
A lot.
It's called, it's called the Mercedes complex in some books, and it's basically like the way it's written in textbooks is like, why would a Mercedes and like a Hyundai like Sonata like fully spec'd out are parked next to each other, and the price tags on them both, and the Mercedes is like $120,000 or whatever. The Sonata's like $50,000. And you're like, you can have either one for free. What do you want? People always go, oh, the Mercedes. You get in the Mercedes, no heated seats. Standard stereo. No heated steering wheel. Gets 15, 20 miles to the gallon. The Sonata, heated seats, Fender stereo.
Yeah,
Heated,
all the upgrades.
All the upgrades.
All the trim packages.
Way better car. But everybody picks the Mercedes because it's more expensive. because the money, the value they're charging says that it is better.
Yeah, there's an actual value. There's an actual value to certain things.
And that's what's happened with music, because now it's free. So people are like, oh, well, it's, music it's not really like valuable.
Ooh, yeah. Like it got shifted. Like Billie Eilish is just like recording. Not to say her music isn't valuable, but she opened the door for bedroom producers to make music with like relatively less value than someone like Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Sure. Because everybody in Zeppelin, or like fucking everybody in Moga, is so phenomenal as musicians. Like, it depends which standpoint you're looking at it from, but like the value that Moga has compared to like one bedroom producer, the amount of talent that's in each of those things, it's different.
There's also something I've been contemplating this a lot, just in regards to my own music. To your point about music is free now, basically, and it has very little. And there's what, 200,000 songs get released every day, something like that on Spotify.
Man, it's insane.
And so the value is completely intangible. It's all completely subjective, and you have to capture people's attention enough. And so I've been thinking really hard about that with like, how I present my music and how do I get people to care. And I've noticed that bands tend to fall into a few different categories of, how they promote their music. There might be one style that I see a lot that y'all are kind of doing is like live performance clips.
Yeah.
Showing what the band sounds like live, or the band playing live in their practice space with their song that's synced up to it. And it's showing the real raw energy, but you're hearing the polished studio thing. I see that a lot. And then I see there's a lot of bands that sort of become just a meme page. And that thing is weird because some of those posts have 100K likes on them. But then you go to the band's Spotify and it's not translating.
Well, yeah, they're liking it. You're not getting the right target audience.
Right, exactly. You're getting other bands going, we do that. And then that's kind of it. And so something that I've been thinking about a lot that I think everyone should be thinking about with if they have a musical project is, what value do you give what initial value do you give somebody that allows you to Trojan horse your music? And it's not like about being manipulative or anything like that. It's just that you have to give somebody something that has some sort of intrinsic like draw to it outside of just, hey, here's my music, please listen to it. Whereas, if you're posting live clips, there's something there where they're seeing the band in action, and there's something entertaining about that before they've even paid attention to what the song is.
I agree. I mean, it's just such a conversation piece on like, how do you bring charging back?
Yeah.
And there's so many ways. It's just like, but it's like, goes back to the teaching thing. It's like, everybody has to commit to it. If everybody committed to charging the right amount of money, be fine. We'd be fine because the consumer would have to pay for it. And that's okay.
We have to all come together and become the theme park.
Yeah.
That charges the ridiculous rates for, $12 beers. And
it's like, that's the thing though, because it's like an album was $15 and now it's free.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Dude, that's insane, man. But like,
crazy.
How do you fix that? There is a way to fix it, but nobody will commit to it. You know what I mean?
Well, maybe it just shifts, like how I think Patreon did an amazing thing for musicians.
Mm-hmm. But inside the music industry. I don't know if it necessarily made it outside. Do you think it made it outside the industry?
Yeah.
There's some people that are making pretty decent money off of Patreon.
I'd say there totally is. Yeah, there's authors out there that will utilize it. There's a lot of podcasters out there that will utilize it.
Okay,
I think there is for sure. But I think it's probably just going to shift maybe. Like it's not, we're paying for this, I don't know what I'm saying at this point, but we're not paying for the songs anymore, but we're paying for the artist.
Well, you're paying
something
for,
like that.
There's another thing I thought about is using your band as making your merch really, really cool and almost being a clothing company that has music, you know, what, like, and as cynical as and like as that might, you know, sound to people initially, if you think about it in a different way, where it's like, well, at the end goal is to get people to care about the music. It's kind of hard to just put it in front of their face and hope that they care enough to just listen to it outright. But if I made, you know, really cool merch or whatever it is, you know, whether that be t-shirts or you have like some cool little trinkets that you sell, like the Louisa has the pet rocks.
Pet rock. We have
nice.
Like 2 of Luisa's pet rocks in that.
Yeah, we've got pet rocks all over the studio now. But yeah, just like, you know, you almost look at yourself as like
an athlete.
Merchandising.
Yeah, like
because athletes like double their money every year through sponsorships.
It's sponsorships.
Yeah.
So it's the same.
All
thing.
those Olympians that, you know, do sports that nobody watches except for when they're during the Olympics. They're not rich off of, you know, ice skating.
No, Nike sponsored them.
Right. They're rich off of the sponsorships.
But again, that's Nike paying for Usain Bolt to be Usain Bolt.
Yeah.
You know, like maybe the model's kind of shifting towards that somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm saying.
Okay, I want to ask about cooking.
Yeah.
But so I think we've probably discussed this a few times on the podcast. There's a noticeable trend of people who are into music and people who are also into cooking. There's a huge crossover there. I've been in multiple bands where everyone in the band was really into cooking. What are some of your favorites?
Let's go.
Man,
just one or two.
Well,
you know,
I really like
your go-to.
Well, my go-to. I'll tell you what my go-to thing to cook is.
Mm-hmm.
I love clean food. Mediterranean diet is huge.
Okay.
I'm also really big on ingredients and where my food has come from. Like I'm the guy that spends the $8 on milk because it's grass-fed and it's come from the farm up the road, and I spend $10 in eggs, knowing that they're from a plate like a 100 square foot place, and there's like 10 chickens there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. I really like my favorite dish right now to cook. It's like 4 chicken thighs, wild potatoes, so like the multicolored ones, small little guys.
Yeah,
cut those up. Grape tomatoes. A couple different colored peppers. Sometimes I put broccoli in. That's not very Mediterranean, but sometimes I just have broccoli to put in there. And then I'll put in capers and lots of olives, a lot of olive oil. And I'll cook that in the oven for, 40 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then take that out. It's all nice and crispy and yummy. And then I'll put that on a plate with blue cheese on top, balsamic vinegar, and then I have this finishing olive oil that has garlic and herbs in it. Something to say about olive oil: if your olive oil does not have an expiration date on it, it's not olive oil.
Yeah, probably, right?
Well, yeah, but I would argue you to do this is go check your olive oil, and you may realize it doesn't have an expiration date, and that's just because it's olive oil mixed with
other bad stuff,
other
straight chlorine,
seed oils. Dun dun dun.
Yeah. We talked about seed oils in the last podcast.
We talked about seed oils,
dude. But it's so real though.
Yeah,
it's pretty freaking scary.
You know, this is why I believe in the reason why I believe in clean food so much is my entire family. Like I'm a first-gen American. My whole family's English.
No way.
So my parents moved here in the 90s, and every year since I was born, I've been fortunate enough to go to England twice a year. I spent, I think, a cumulative like 5 or 6 years in England.
Wow.
And so I get to experience both foods. This is what happens every time I go to England. I eat pasta, burgers, steak and kidney pie, pasties, whatever, like all this food that if I ate it here, I would be like bloated and like I would definitely put the LBs on for sure.
Yeah.
And I eat that there, and just coming off of the food that we eat here, and like there's not really like the seed oil thing's not really a problem in England, and the food is so clean, and their restrictions on stuff is insane. Like you can't they make Starbursts in England, but the Starbursts are all white.
No way.
Really? They don't have
They were. I don't know if I think they figured out like different colorings to make them colors, but like for ages they were just like white because they wouldn't put they refused to put the colorings in, so the company was like, we'll just make them white then.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
I didn't
dude,
know
I would get cut while I was over there, just like lose body fat.
Oh yeah.
And then I would come back and eat healthier, and I would feel gross. You know what I mean? Like I'd start to break out, and I would be like, "What the heck?" And like then I was at college, and I had all these friends from Europe that would come here, and they would be like, their stomachs would get destroyed by the food here.
Just super tired all the time too.
Super exhausted. Yeah. And my mom, she's had a whole bunch of wild health issues. Not necessarily related to food. I mean, she's like injured herself. Like she's a super healthy, works out all the time. But she eats like super, super healthy. Now she's got, unfortunately, it's Lyme's disease. Oh. And so her doctors are like, she's got these like, she's got actual Lyme's doctors, and they're like, eat super healthy and it'll be better. And she eats like wicked healthy. And I eat super healthy, and I massively made the switch back like last year because I was like in and out, and I made the switch back, and I was like, oh man, like I just feel so good, and my brain feels so good.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
And you just feel happy. And like I had anxiety, you know what I mean, about lots of things. Like I would get anxious very easily, and like I work a lot. I get up at like 7. I start working, and I'm not very good at giving myself time to chill. And I started getting anxious constantly, and I switched what I was eating, and it just like went away. Wow. You know what I mean? Because my body's not also trying to deal with the fact that it's trying to digest crap.
Horrible food.
I mean, yeah, your body has like a certain bandwidth, whether you're conscious of it or not. Like if your body is like, there was a time, and I still like, I try to eat cheap recently. And I feel like a lot of times when I try to eat cheap, I'm just tired all the time. That's kind of the thing that like, weighs on me. But that's just like my body's just working. It's working its butt off to digest whatever the heck just went into it. And like, my body used to break out randomly, and I couldn't figure out what it was. So I did like an elimination kind of deal. It was eggs. I cut out eggs.
Dude, well, eggs, if eggs have, if the egg shell is thin, it's a sick hen. And
is that a thing?
Unfortunately, one of the big grocery stores around here, you buy their brand eggs for 99 cents. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's what I would buy.
And they have the thinnest shells.
Yeah.
But you go to England, you get eggs there. First off, they don't refrigerate the eggs. Because you refrigerate eggs in America, so you make them last longer. But the second you take them out of the fridge, they go bad because the moisture that condenses on the outside of the eggs, that water goes rancid on the inside of the eggshell. That's why the eggs go off. So in England, they don't. Those eggs, you can almost to say drop them on the floor and they'll bounce. That's how thick the shells are. Wow. And the yolks are so dark, and you have an egg on its own, and the yolk has just like amazing taste. And you buy this grocery store around here's eggs, and you can't taste anything, and it tastes weird, and you feel sick. And that's because you're eating food from a sick animal.
Yeah.
But then you get out of this country, man. We gotta get out, man. We gotta start the Garden Groove commune.
It's terrifying.
Let's go.
But you can find good stuff. I mean, I get like there's Pete and Jerry's eggs, there's the Vital Farms eggs, and I get those. And
yeah, where do you go for your good ingredients?
I just go to Publix.
That's
I love
Pub a little harder.
Pub and Turnip.
Well, I'll tell you what, Publix. If you go to Publix and they've got those good BOGO deals on, buy one get one free, I'll spend like money and then get way more than I would get at Kroger for the same price. But I would also say like Eric, who plays bass for Pitch and bass for Mogo.
Yeah, we had him on. He's like episode 13 or something.
Yeah, he was early on, I think.
One of the best philosophies Eric has ever instilled in me that I'll live by till the day I die is I was talking about money. I was like, this, whatever, stressed about cash, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, what's your rich life? And I was like,
I love Eric.
Yeah, Eric's a very, very intelligent person.
Yes.
And I was like, I don't know what you mean. Like, what do you mean? He's like, what are when you have enough money, what are the things that you be buying? Why do you need money? What is your rich life? And he's like, so basically what he's saying is just like, the problem that happens in, especially America, because there's no ceiling. Like, it's really easy. I would argue that America is one of the easiest places in the world you can go between social classes. You know what I mean? I put the air quotes because I don't like social classes as a mindset, but unfortunately that is a thing that sort of exists. And he's like, so you get richer, but then you'll want more stuff. And then you'll want more stuff as you get richer. And then he's like, look at Elon Musk. Is he happy? He's pretty stressed out.
Yeah.
Especially now.
Yeah. Separate podcast.
And no comment. And he's the richest person ever. He's not necessarily happy. So what's your rich life? And I was like, things that I must have. I was like, clean food. And I was like, hiking is free, but I love to hike, so I've got that. It's fine. I was like, I don't really care about my car very much.
Like location, though.
Got the gear. Yeah, location. Yeah. So I like living somewhere, like the space I live in and the food I eat are the two things that I care the most about. And he's like, great. You happy with where you live? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, what about your groceries? And I was like, well, I try to save money there. And he goes, that's where you should be spending your money. Then you'll be happy.
Yeah.
And he's like, otherwise, and then he's like, if you're happy, then you'll save money everywhere else. Because you won't be trying to fill that void with other stuff. And I was like, huh. So ever since he said that to me, I just buy groceries. I'm fortunate enough that I can do this, but like I'll buy groceries. It doesn't matter how much they cost. I put my card down, pay for it, don't even think about it. But then I don't go out and spend money on booze. I don't spend money on anything unnecessary ever because every day my fullest, richest needs are met as I make myself the greatest food, and I'm just like full of like awesomeness. You know what I mean?
Like, I love it. I was thinking about something like that on my run this morning. Where like there's a version of you that's just like as fulfilled as possible.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like this thing you keep striving towards, like as good as you want to be at guitar, as energetic as you want to be throughout the day. Like all the relationships that you want to have are just like.
Yeah.
But there's like a Goldilocks zone to it.
Yeah.
Like there's not like, well, only when I make $1 billion, I'll finally be that fully fulfilled kind of person. Like, no, there's probably like a threshold there. Maybe it's like once you finally start to make 6 figures or whatever it is, you realize, okay, I don't have to worry about paying for food. I can eat out as much as I want. And then there's probably a certain amount of health too. There's people that like do ultra marathoners are all crazy.
Yeah.
But I've met a lot of marathoners. They're pretty sane. So like, okay, even just like health wise, there's too far. So it's just
once you start making enough, once you start making the money you think you'll need to be satisfied, then you talk to all those people and they're like, I'm trying to make enough money to retire because the thing that they now need is time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's the Goldilocks zone where you have time, the money to buy the things you need.
Yeah, but time's the last one. Yeah.
People don't think about it. They just breeze through that zone without even thinking or realizing that they're there because they haven't defined the things that they need to be satisfied and content with their life.
Yeah, I love it. You got to define what it is.
And I'm pointing at myself when I say this. People put an imaginary number out there of how much money they need to be making to feel comfortable. Right. And then what you realize is that you get so caught up in chasing after that you really, if you were living at your means or whatever, that you don't need to make as much as you think you do to be living comfortably. Right. If you're budgeting properly and you don't have like a bunch of outstanding debt or something like that. That's a different situation. But I think people get really caught up in trying to. It's just always that next thing, that next step.
And it just never stops.
I had that a bit of that moment with myself where I was like, I've got, for me, one of those things, the rich life, is having a recording studio. Well, I do. I have a room in my house that is 100% dedicated to recording. I have a full drum kit, the full ability to record every instrument under the sun in there. It's okay, what am I, this has literally been my dream. And I'm sitting here thinking about, okay, but when am I gonna be able to like buy a piece of land and build a studio on that and have a standalone building? And like, I'm sitting here thinking about all these things, and when is that going to happen? And how much money do I have to make between now and then so that I can do that? And am I going to be an old man when that happens? Or what, thinking about all these things. I'm like, there's literally a recording studio in my house right now. I have every ability to make as many records as I want to make or record other people.
Yeah.
That's kind of goes with that philosophy.
It's being present, baby.
Yeah.
Very current.
Present.
It's important.
Super important.
You can tell when people have figured out because they're just stable.
Yeah.
You just talk to them and silence happens. They're just like, there's like an aura of like energy just like coming out of them.
Dude, yeah. There's a lady here, Corinne Champigny. She teaches like meditation to people, like presence. She's one of very few people that I met where I was just like, holy hell. Like there's something about that person that's just like, they don't need anything. Mm-hmm. They don't need anything. They don't need more people. They don't need anything. She has a garden in her backyard. Like, she's good. And you can just tell.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a really hard thing to get to. But like when you see it, and like, I would even say Eric is similar to that. Eric Fortaleza.
Yeah.
Like, he's just so, he seems really good. I don't know him as well. Honestly, I don't know him that well. Mm-hmm. But like anytime I'm around him, there's an aura to him where it's just like he's very smart. He's very good at what he does. He's pretty clear about where he wants to go. Like, it's cool to be around people like that.
Yeah. That's because really Eric knows the things he needs in his day-to-day life to be there. He has it. So all the things that Eric aspires and chases are things that he wants desperately, but doesn't like. But it's not like he wants them on top of what he's already got. It's like the whole motto at pitch meeting is, "This is an overflow of your cup."
Nice, yeah,
and it's such a great thing to think.
That's
of.
great.
It's a life philosophy because if your cup is always full, everything you do is what you have extra, which means you always will have the energy because your cup will never drain itself. The danger, because we give back. Pitch meeting is a nonprofit, so we're giving back to the community, and it takes a lot of energy and time and hours to make that event run. There is so many people on that team to make that event run, and don't
you have 12? Total, or is it more than that, or
like,
is it 15 or something?
No,
like that?
we're like 30 or 40 people involved with pitch meeting.
Because it's all like they got like Jamie and like extra
full film crew, full photo crew.
Yeah,
we also record everything, so we've got people backstage that are mixing everything. You know what I mean? And dude, it's really intense. And then there's the board, and then there's people that are working on the sponsorship side of things as well. And so none of us get paid for this. Right. So the problem that you can run into is if your cup is not full and you go to pitch meeting to fill your cup, it's not necessarily always this should always be an overflow of your cup. You're there because you want to. And it feels good to be there. But if you're there to fill your cup, can be hard, and it can be dangerous too. You know what I mean? It's like a whole thing.
Yeah, very interesting. Is there anything else you want to shout out? We got a new Moga Family Band has a new single, "I'm Not Your Friend," coming out on, I guess this Thursday, the 20th. Yeah, day of your show, baby.
Where are you playing?
I'm playing at Arcane Workshop.
Nice, man.
Yeah, we're playing with our friends Foz Melly. They're a cool little jam band. We've recorded them here at Garden Groove, actually, and they should be coming in soon to record another single with us. But yeah, that one's going to be fun, and that'll be Thursday the 20th. This Thursday.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yesterday for our viewers.
Yesterday.
Nice.
When does it come out? The time Friday. This is releasing.
Nice.
That's cool. Where'd you guys record it? Was that at? I heard Pitch Studios is closing.
It's gone.
It's already closed.
Just rent went up, so
okay.
Unfortunately, but
Okay.
Pitch Studios is gone. Well, it'll come back. Don't worry.
New,
better. It's like it's one of those universe things where it's like it's gone. That means the universe is ready for us to have a better studio. You know, so.
A window opens, as the saying goes.
Sure. Yeah.
Yes.
A window. The attic door is open.
The attic door is
window
open.
opens, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, we recorded there, and we record a lot of stuff. So
cool.
Yeah, man. It'll be fun. I'm excited that's coming out, and then on the same day, we're taking over all of Whiskey Jam. No, we're at Moga. It's the Moga night, so we've got a couple of cool special guests. Some of them include like Tyler Larson, which is Music is Win.
Okay,
he's gonna be playing with us. He's a great guitar player. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
That's an OG music YouTuber.
Yep,
he's been around forever.
Yeah, Leilani Kilgore.
Okay,
ripping blues guitar player, and vocalist and songwriter.
Oh, she works with Colt Caparoon. Do you know who that is?
I'm not super familiar.
He's a YouTube. Well, he's a producer engineer. That I saw. He just did her mixed and mastered her latest song. Really cool guy. He's got one of my favorite YouTube channels right now for like production stuff. He's based out of Nashville.
That's awesome.
But yeah, he does her stuff. And he does the Atmos mixes and stuff like that too. So,
nice.
Yeah.
It's cool, dude. There's been a lot of really cool stuff out of that Pitch studio. Legendary stuff.
You want to jam her out?
Let's do it. Anything else you want to shout out? Do you want to give people where they can follow you? And
yeah, man. I mean,
deal?
My Instagram is just my name, official, Jake Baynes official. So is my TikTok and my YouTube and everything else. You can find all the Moga Family Band music on all social streaming platforms under Moga Family Band. That is MOGA. What does Moga mean? As many people ask, it means family.
Nice.
That's what it means. It's our own way of meaning family.
The family band.
That's the thing we always say. Is it's a family band. It's very funny.
Nice.
But it's a term that Eric and I came up with, and just peaceful family because we love everybody. So and all our music's there. New music's coming out like every month at the moment, which is great. We've got that Whiskey Jam show that's coming up, and then any other shows are going to be on the Moga Family Band Instagram account and TikTok. And my free lick lesson course.
I'll throw the link.
Licks. That link's going to be down below as well. So that thing's pretty sweet. I'm excited about that. And other than that, man, like, let's play some music,
Let's do it.